Hello and welcome to Bitcoin Hub with Bhavik and I. Today's video will be a bit of Hindi and English mix, so please excuse for those who are our regular viewers and who prefer Hindi only. But हाँ, हम लोग आज ऐसे guest को ला रहे हैं who has a full of experience in the Bitcoin space, and he's doing a certain experiment with by himself and with the glitch which he's found, which the corporations have already found, but the infinite money glitch which he's found per se. And we'd like to talk more about it, and we'd want you to, share your thoughts on how you find this interesting, and if you'd like to
Yes.
pursue this. One major disclaimer: none of it is financial advice, and for anyone who want to do it, please go ahead. But you need to keep in mind the risks and the rewards accordingly. So, having
Yes.
said that, I would introduce our guest for today. Hi, Sunny. How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Hey.
Hi.
Uh,
Welcome to Bitcoin
yeah,
Hub.
welcome to Bitcoin Hub.
Mhm.
Uh, Thank you for connecting and accepting the invite because we've been following your tweets for a while now, and they've been extremely bullish on Bitcoin. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to have an actual conversation with a person who's been so vocal about it on Twitter, but not many people know about him
Yeah.
in real life. Let's begin with the basic introductions in terms of where are you based out of, what do you do, like in terms of the normie world. Apart from Bitcoin, is there any specific interest that you're pursuing at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm based out of Las Vegas, Nevada,
Okay.
USA. Um,
Okay.
my Fiat mining job is in IT. I'm a software engineer,
Okay.
like most other Indians around the world. Uh, and what are my hobbies? I'm into tennis, watch it.
Right.
Used to play, I just stopped playing recently, but I was a big tennis fan and just into photography, drone
Okay.
photography, and yeah,
Nice.
and tech in
Awesome.
general.
That's great to know.
Mhm.
Uh, Bhavik, please feel free to interrupt, and अगर आपके
Yes,
कुछ
yes, yes.
questions हो तो please ask. And it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
I'm hoping you understand a bit of Hindi, and we can frame questions accordingly.
Yeah, I'm a little bit weak in English, but yeah, I will cop up.
Yeah, and if I don't, I'll just say, could
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You can just
Awesome.
Yes,
say.
yes.
Cool. So one of the basic questions which I like to ask, and I think every Bitcoiner has their own perspective on how they discovered Bitcoin. So if you could share some insight on when was it that you actually found, and when did you actually took it seriously? Because I believe those are two separate things which every Bitcoiner goes through. That they first hear about it and then they dismiss it, and then they come back after a few years. So
Mm.
do you have any specific story like that in your case?
Yeah, I fully agree that those are two distinct, separate timelines. So the first time I heard about it was in 2013. I had
Okay.
bought some, and back then I had just started working in 2011. So just started making money. And so I was looking at also, trying to invest in stocks and all that on the side to just grow my wealth.
Okay.
And so Coinbase at the time was really starting to take off in the States. I think in 2013 it made a large move. So everyone was talking about it, and that's when I first heard about it from a couple of friends. So I had
Okay.
just bought it randomly. I think the price was $700 back then
Wow.
in 2013. But I quickly
Yeah.
sold it when I doubled to 14. So I got out
Mhm.
just because I was in the fiat mindset of trading and it was a quick
Right.
100% double. So I just exited and thought, okay, I'm a genius. So 2013
Yeah.
is the first time I heard about it. And
Awesome.
then after I sold, I didn't do anything about it until I think 2017 when the major FOMO year happened.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
everyone that's the time when it went to 20K, right? 17, early 18.
Yeah.
I think I
Right.
traded it again in and out. I no
Mhm.
longer remember the price, but yeah, I went in and out again, and somewhere in the middle I got off. I think like 13K I got out. It went to 20,
Mhm.
and then we know it crashed all the way back to 4 or 3K.
Yes.
Right.
So I was out of it. I didn't lose any money on both trades.
Mhm.
But then it was March 2020 exactly is when I
Mm.
fully understood what this was.
Okay.
Nice.
And it was driven by the US Fed actions after COVID in the US.
Absolutely. So I had a question like during 2013, 2017, were you a part of groups? You have those forums, Reddit forums on Twitter. Bitcoin Twitter got famous and it just blew after 2020. And did you find any groups before that that were talking about the ethos of Bitcoin and what it could be and what the potential was? Or was it just the trading mindset and you just wanted to make a quick buck?
Yeah, it was purely trading fiat mindset. I wasn't following any groups. I wasn't a part of any forums,
Okay.
or I didn't look into anything. I
Mm.
just
Right.
knew about it. I just knew about crypto in general. And
Okay.
it was just another thing that I
Mm-hmm.
was trading besides stocks.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
so like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was about to ask, what was that moment? Like, what suddenly happened in March 2020? Like that opened your eyes. Was it
Okay.
regarding? Yeah.
Yeah. So in March, I was playing tennis one weekend,
Mm.
and I have an Apple Watch. Right? So
Mm.
I saw a notification while I was playing, and the notification said Fed to buy infinite bond buying. Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
That was the exact text. It was infinite bond buying.
Okay.
So when I read, I sat down like during a break, I read it, and then I really wondered why they're using the words infinity. Like
Right.
what could that possibly mean? Infinite bond buying. So I went
Okay.
home and I basically Googled it, researched some more,
Mm.
and then you realize when they're buying infinity bonds, it just means the dollar really has no value. Bonds have no value. It's infinity, right?
Right.
Anything infinite has no
Right.
value.
Mm.
And that was it. That was all I needed. And
Mm.
and I was back to Bitcoin because I knew the basics, right? I knew it was
Yeah.
21 million. It's scarce, can never be changed.
Mm.
So
Right.
I think I put those two things together, right? It's the opposite of infinity. So I went all in. That was it. It was that weekend
Mm.
after a little bit of research and after
Nice.
some headlines saying infinite bond buying. That was it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that happens to a lot of people. You have a lot of problems going on, and you see the fiat world, and you see uh, prices of things going exponentially high in the matter of few years. You
Right.
have inflation, which is rampant, and then one day you learn about this, and you understand the basics of it, and it just clicks. And the next moment you're like, okay, I need to completely transition, and I need there's a kind of urgency and anxiety that people follow after they've learned what the potential of Bitcoin is. At least that's what happened to me around 2020 itself.
Mm.
So I believe it was the same for you also.
Yeah, that's why the saying goes gradually then suddenly.
Yeah.
That's what that
Mm.
means.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a panic that you feel, and then you suddenly need to make moves.
Yeah.
Right.
Like after understanding Bitcoin, it comes like a panic.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
that's the suddenly part. Gradually is
Yeah.
the learning. Slowly you're learning,
Yes.
and then the
Yeah.
suddenly is you check your allocation, and you need a huge allocation, and you have to make sure that
Yeah.
you do it properly, like self custody, all things related.
Right.
It comes as
So
a panic. Yeah.
one more question: when you were obviously enlightened about the whole issue, about the fiat issue, did people around you, were there friends and acquaintances around you who knew what was happening? Did you go and tell them, and what was their reaction like? Because personally, and I believe I speak for Bhavik batana agar if main galat hu to.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
what happens in our circles and me personally is that I keep you know advocating for it every day is when I keep talking about it through my status, through my Twitter account, through my WhatsApp statuses, and keep telling people that I know because that I care about that, okay, this is the problem and here's the solution. So why don't you focus on the solution instead of stressing on the problem? And they completely dismiss it. It was like, oh, okay, how much is the price now? What is the price today? Okay, we'll
Mhm.
see. We'll come back to you after a few days. So that's the common you know, thing that I get, like in return of the thing that I'm trying to explain to them. So was this a certain challenge, or did you see it as a challenge back in 2020?
So back when I suddenly realized what it was, I think I told my immediate circle, right? Like anyone
Yeah,
would.
yeah,
Like I told my friend who I was playing tennis with that day,
yeah,
and then like my wife and my brother and my parents. That's
yeah.
about it, and maybe a handful of friends that I regularly talk to.
Right.
But I was too focused on my own allocation and my own like finances,
Absolutely.
and trying to just
mm,
scramble together all the money I could find and just try to smash by.
mm,
I was focused on that, I think, several weeks since that
yes.
one weekend. So
Mm,
for weeks I didn't publish anything. I didn't like
mm,
broadcast that what I
mm,
was doing or that they should also be doing. It was
Right.
mainly just focused on myself and
mhm,
a small circle of people.
Yeah. And when you completely transitioned, or whatever, not completely, how much ever you transitioned into it, was there skepticism around it, or like, why are you doing this? Are you just blowing your money away? You know, the common misconceptions normies have
Yeah,
related to
yeah.
Bitcoin. Did you get a lot of those from your immediate circle as well?
Yeah, for sure. They would say the regular things like, I mean, you should diversify. That's like the number one thing they say, right?
mhm,
When I say I'm going all in, that's the first thing they say. You should diversify.
Right.
But I didn't have time back then to explain why I'm doing this, right?
mhm,
That came later for me. I had to allocate myself, and then I started answering questions as
Right.
people started seeing that summer go up, right? When I got in, it was around 8K.
mm,
Wow.
So eventually, that was in the summer. Eventually, we
Right.
hit 16K.
Yeah.
So 100% move, and then you started to get a bunch of calls and texts from friends who've been watching and not listening to me for $8,000 ago. So then,
right.
yeah, there was a flood of questions and interaction from my group, and then
Mhm.
I slowly started explaining to them, whoever would listen, whoever would listen, and look at the links I shared and all that. So
Mhm,
I didn't follow up even individually. I have no idea who had it, who didn't, but
Yeah.
I did, my part in answering questions and being available. I still wasn't publishing actively on my X account or my
mm.
Instagram.
Right.
That still wasn't a thing yet.
Got it. Bhavik,
Yeah.
आपको कुछ, you have any
Yeah,
specific?
yeah, yeah. I want to like I have few like yeah. When you got Bitcoin, like when you like it just struck you. So like was it before you read these books? Like we can saw books behind you, three beautiful
Mhm.
books. So like was it
These
before
books
reading
I
you
read.
started
These
or
I read
yeah?
afterwards,
Okay.
and I fully haven't even read the whole thing yet. I only
Yeah, yeah,
know excerpts from all of them
yeah.
Okay.
because you see the quotes floating around on Twitter all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I fully have not even read these yet. I'll get to
Mm-hmm.
it someday, but
Yeah.
I
Did
know
you
the
like
general I know the general concept.
mandibles?
Hmm?
Yeah, did you the third book is Mandibles, right?
Yeah,
Leonard's.
that's right. That's right.
So, like, did you read it or no?
No, I began it. I haven't finished it.
Yeah, because lots of people in Bitcoin world they say about this book, but I also haven't read it. But, yeah, I heard it first from Odell. Maybe Odell keeps talking about Mandibles.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah,
an
yeah,
interesting look at what could
yeah,
actually happen into the future,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
might be one of the only books that talk about
Hmm.
it. And it's actually Bitcoin is very very briefly mentioned,
Okay.
by the way, in this book. It's not about
Hmm.
Bitcoin. It's just about
Okay.
hyperinflation and
Okay.
huge and very high rates of inflation. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the book and the quote, there's one specific thing that we are here today to discuss, that specific experiment of yours. And I would call it an experiment because I'm sure you have your own theses on why you want to do it, and why you're and that's why we wanted to know and understand on what the problem is, and why do it, the objective behind it, and the learnings you've had so far. And we'll begin with precisely that. And let me share my screen here.
Hmm.
So yeah, uh, this was a quote I think which struck chord with you. And would you like to talk more about this and probably explain on where did this start from, this whole experiment of yours?
Yeah, sure. So we all know Michael Saylor started this in 2020, right? But I believe in the year 2020, nobody quite understood what he was doing like they understood it now. Now it's very clear what he's doing, right? There's been a million podcasts on it explaining what he's doing. But in 2020, that was not the case. It was very difficult to understand what he was doing unless you read his filings, MicroStrategy filings, right?
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
information was very lacking back then. So I didn't start doing this until November 2023.
Okay.
I took some time to understand what he was doing, why he was doing it,
Mhm.
which brings us to the quote you're seeing on the screen here. I'll let you guys read it, but
Sure.
there's
I'll,
only
I'll
there's one sentence that I would like to focus on,
Sure, please.
and that's going to be, it says, where is it? Okay, so the sentence we should focus on is the fiat system thus taxes savers and
Yeah.
subsidizes borrowers.
Right.
That's key.
Yes,
That's the takeaway
this is the main
from the
thing,
paragraph.
right?
What they're basically saying is our system will punish you if you do not take debt and if you save, okay, via
Mm.
tax, inflation tax. And the system will benefit you if you borrow fiat.
Mm.
That's it,
Right.
simple. And
Right.
then you make the connection to what Saylor was doing. He's of
Mhm.
course borrowing as much fiat as he can get his hands on.
Right.
And then if you dig deeper, he obviously explains why. He thinks there's an arbitrage there. He thinks the dollar is debasing forever, which means capturing something with limited supply should technically go up in those dollars forever. That's the basis.
Mhm.
Okay. So, for those who are new to this, because we know we've been following this, but for those who are new to this, could you explain on what exactly happened? I'm just pulling up the tweet on the screen for you to give a summary of what this was and when did it start. I think it's almost 10 months since the start of the experiment.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
But
what was the MO? What was the, how do you start? What did you do? It's pretty self-explanatory, but we'd like to hear it from your own words, sir.
sure. So this is pretty specific to living in the US and
Okay.
having access to credit card products unique to the US.
Okay.
I've spoken to a bunch of friends in India, and they say that this can't really be done in India because the products are not there yet.
Right.
It's not equivalent. Like there are not 0% deals left and right like there is in America.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
because as everyone knows, America is like the land of debt products, right? Consumer debt. It's a debt economy, debt-based economy. The whole economy runs on debt, and
Mm.
it keeps running. And growth is nothing but people taking new debt and adding to the debt, and the GDP grows the same way.
Okay.
Which is
Mhm.
why we have all of these debt products and credit products in America. So that's the basis for all of this.
Right.
Mhm.
So in November 2023, I decided to just do a Google search on what the cheapest forms of debt was. Because
Mhm.
Michael Saylor, if you look at his filings, all his debt is near 0% that he borrows, near zero.
Yeah.
It's not
Mhm.
equal, but it's very near zero. So I decided to search, same thing, what the lowest interest debt products were.
Okay.
And then I
Mhm.
found this list of 8 credit cards that were offering 0%
Mhm.
to begin with for
Okay.
21 to 18 months.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
then
what
you
does happen after? Oh, sorry.
Bulbul.
So what does happen after like 18, 21 months? Like you, right now you are only paying like the minimum amount to let the debt run.
Yeah. So what happens during the 21 to 18 months is they
Yes.
give me their credit limits at 0%
Okay.
with a starting fee. It's like 3% of the transfer amount. If you look in the purchase price, the cost basis column, the
Mm-hmm.
fourth column on the left side, right?
Yeah.
3% of every line, every cell is what they initially charged me as a
Okay.
fee. 3%. And that's
All
it.
of
Okay.
them, all the
And
cards, is
then
it?
say that
All the
again.
cards individually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can do the sum. 54,000 times 3% is the fees I pay
Okay.
so far.
Got it.
And
So
like
then,
it does it. Yes, please continue, please.
yeah. So for the 18 to 21 months, they will let me just hold this
Mhm.
debt at 0%. They're not charging any interest.
Okay.
So Bhavik, to come back to your question, what happens
Yes.
after 18 or 21 months?
Yes.
After 18 or 21 months, the interest rate goes up to like 25%, 30%. Okay.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
Hmm.
my plan is to eliminate all of this debt, and we're going to open new cards and do this thing called balance transfer,
Right.
which will be for another 0% for another 18 to 21 months,
Right.
plus that 3% fee again.
Hmm.
Hold on. I have a question here. By
Yeah.
eliminating
Okay.
debt, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, are you going to pay it off or?
No. So when I say eliminate, we're talking transfer. So
Okay.
it'll be eliminated from these cards. So the debt on
Okay.
these
Hmm.
cards, which are mine, will go to
Okay.
zero
Got it. Got it.
because we simply transferred it.
Hmm.
Understood.
But so these cards will now become my parents' cards. My parents are a part of our plan.
Mm-hmm.
They understand the game and what I'm doing, and they don't understand Bitcoin, but they
Mm-hmm.
do understand the concept of buying things with printed things, buying
Okay.
things that cannot be printed using
Hmm.
things that can be printed. They understand
Nice.
this, okay? Because
Yep.
they bought houses back in the day in early
Hmm.
2000s, right, when it was very cheap.
Right.
Hmm.
They understand that concept. They might not get Bitcoin, but they understand
Hmm.
this printed, non-printed thing. So they're a part of this, and so they're going to be getting the same cards. So then we
Hmm.
will be shifting the balance from mine to them, so that we are
Understood.
buying
Okay.
another 0% 18 to 21 months, basically.
Wow.
Hmm.
And is there a particular duration you have in mind on what is the duration of the entire experiment that you're doing, or is it like perpetual? I don't
Hmm.
think this can be perpetual, right?
It can only be perpetual as long as you have people to do it, which means
Got it.
Hmm.
my wife is still remaining after my parents.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay, which will, if she can get the cards, it will be another 18 21 months,
Okay.
and then it could come back to me,
Okay.
Got it.
because that whole
After
time
some.
I'll be debt free also, right? It's no longer on my name. So
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
and the cards keep offering you deals every now and then. You just manually have to keep checking it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay.
So I have at least 2 more cycles I can kick this can. Two more
Hmm.
21-month cycles. That'll give us what? 42 months.
Yeah.
Guaranteed that I can.
Almost around 3.5 years. Yeah. Yeah, I have a small question. So, yeah, about fees. So, you are paying 3% fees. So, like, will it get deducted after like how does it work? Like, you are paying $542 every month, right?
No.
Okay.
Not every month. Just that one time when I transfer it.
Okay, it's a one time. So, no monthly payments.
No, the monthly payments are 1% of the whole balance, which is
Okay.
542, as you can see.
Okay, so one, yeah. So, will it get deducted when you transfer the debt to the next card, or is it just the flat fees?
Uh, it'll be flat fees.
Okay.
So when we go through this first cycle, the
Mm-hmm.
54 will not be 54 anymore, right? We will have
Right.
made we will have made 21 times 542 amount
Okay,
of
so
debt.
that will be around 11,000 maybe.
Right.
11,000, yeah.
So the debt I'm
So
transferring is 54 minus that 11, the new amount.
okay, so you need like Bitcoin will need to increase that difference. So
Yeah,
maybe
right. Basically,
10%
which is
or
3%.
20%. Okay, Bitcoin will only need to increase 3% to pay
For
off
me
your
to break
fees.
even. For break even, yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay,
Which
now
is
I
a
got it.
no brainer. Obviously, it obviously is
Yes.
gonna do much more
Hmm.
Yeah.
because we know
Hmm.
a bull cycle is coming.
Hmm.
So when it comes
Yes.
to the whole timing of this, don't you believe that you entered at the right time? Did you actually time this thing? And did you have a specific horizon that you were looking at? Because halving to halving, is that what you had in mind? Like just after the halving, when the prices are low, that's when I'll enter, and I'll leverage this for 4 years or 21 months, and then come back. Is that something that you had planned, or
No,
was it
this
by
was
chance?
this. I did not plan it like that in any way or to time it in any way. You can
Mhm.
clearly see my purchases price, how wrong I was from the bottom. The first
Right,
time I did it was 29.
right,
So I
right.
didn't this whole idea to me did not occur to me until
Mhm.
price was 29.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Why? I don't know. I can't tell you. I just wasn't thinking in a
Right.
way
right.
to maximize debt. It occurred to me in November 2023.
Okay,
Hmm.
I think the bottom was in the summer of
Yeah.
2023 when we hit that 16K.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Me too.
this was not about timing. This was not about cycle.
Hmm.
No having nothing.
Got it.
So, so like even if the price dumps, so it will be hard for you to pay from your fiat job, but still you have Bitcoin, right? So I think you are okay with that. That's what
Actually,
should be
it's
in your
quite
mind.
easy to
Yeah.
maintain this debt from my fiat job month to month.
Yeah. Yeah. So like
That's why
the
that's why
risk
I took
is
it. This is not a burden on me at all.
yes. So it's a proper risk. Like yeah, even if
Correct.
Bitcoin goes half, it won't affect you much. So
Even if
that's the
Bitcoin
key.
dumps, it does not matter. Only
Yeah.
making monthly payments and
Yeah.
letting the term go is all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what like yeah, minimum payment is totally affordable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Hmm.
Now,
That's a
Life
beautiful
Bitcoin doesn't
experiment.
matter.
coming to the,
Mhm.
there's always been a debate, and I don't
Hmm.
know if you've come across that article on Stacker News, where they talk about the ethics of all of this. I know this is a personal experiment, and I don't mean to point fingers or anything, but do
Hmm.
you think it's wise? And you found this particular glitch in the system, and you are borrowing fiat to mine more Bitcoin per se.
Well,
So the
what
ethical
do they
aspect.
say? What do they say about the ethics of this?
So there are two camps to this, obviously. There,
Okay.
one of the people are like those who are not aware of this particular hack. They are left in the sidelines and they
Mhm.
don't know how to leverage the system. So they're losing out. They don't know about this. That's lack
Okay.
of
Hmm.
knowledge. The other camp is they have the resources, but at the same time, you are quote unquote exploiting and increasing the overall debt in the system. Is that right or wrong? They're going in that direction. So I would like to know your thoughts on either of them, like both of them rather.
Okay. I think my thoughts on people who think this is an ethical issue, I think their anger is misplaced.
Okay.
Hmm.
Like that saying,
Definitely.
like don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Right.
Hmm.
This is the game that you are also in, whether you want to
Right.
play or
Right.
not,
Right.
is the
Hmm.
difference.
Hmm.
The the anger should be at our central bank and
Hmm.
the governments, right?
Hmm.
They're the ones that are expanding the debt, not me.
Definitely. Definitely.
They're
I
the ones that
totally
are doing
agree. Like yeah. Yeah.
No, no, I get that. We get
it.
that. As
Yes.
Bitcoiners,
Right,
we
right,
Hmm.
have
right.
seen the picture. But
Hmm.
at the same time, right, in terms of increasing the overall, you have the three trillion mark debt, which is the current debt
Hmm.
in the US, if I'm not wrong. The world debt is 300 trillion, if I'm not wrong. The
Something like
exact
that.
number,
The US debt is 36 trillion.
36
Hmm.
trillion. Sorry. So when it comes to that, we are, I mean, with these experiments, uh, increasing that particular debt. That was the whole point of debate in that group. And
I
that's
see.
what I thought would needs to be highlighted as well. Because some
Hmm.
people, like you said, have their anger misplaced on no, 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 this person is doing, and they are, taxing the wealthy, and that is something which the mindset needs to change, where okay, a person is making profits, a person is they found a loophole in the system and they're leveraging it, but
Hmm.
that doesn't make a bad person, that doesn't make them a
Hmm.
bad person.
Right, right.
So yeah, भाविक आप कुछ बोल रहे थे?
Yeah, so like I think yeah, I totally agree with Sunny, and that's what I think. Like it is, I think it's ethical to borrow money in this game because the game is totally rigged, right? And
Yeah,
like every fiat job is unethical. Like most of the fiat job is unethical right now. So if you
Right,
are
right.
no, yeah, like if you are working for finance company, or like you are working for this game, so like borrowing money is, I think, a small thing, right? Like even my passion, like my job profession, I also teach for, like I teach for engineers. Like my
Mhm.
students go to IITs, and what they do, like after graduating, they go work for finance company, they work for IT company, and they are all like manipulating.
Right,
So
right.
in a way, I am also like my profession is unethical in a way. So I think
Exactly,
there are so
exactly.
many whole things. So we should help collapse this fiat system, like
Yeah, I mean,
as
I don't
fast
think
as we
that
can.
that argument is very strong when they make it.
Hmm.
It's quite
right,
weak
Hmm.
because I mean, the money is just gets printed. If
Hmm.
you
true,
want to focus on ethics, we should only focus
Hmm.
there, not
Yeah,
down
it
the
will
street.
anyway get printed, right? Like anyway it will be get printed.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's the different thing.
got it.
And even if you are buying a house, then also you are leveraging, right? It's the same thing. Like
exactly.
hmm.
House, car,
Hmm.
all the
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
all the same, like
Hmm.
scale at different scale.
And there is information asymmetry, so and
Yeah.
it will be always be there, maybe.
Yeah.
Hmm.
uh, I'm not sure how
Hmm.
uh, familiar are you with the whole Indian scenario, like in terms of stock market? Bhavik and I both feel that the Indian stock market currently is overvalued, and there's a lot of excess which is there in the system, which needs to be flushed out, which will happen gradually over the period of next few years. But how closely are you tracking and monitoring the Nifty 50 index and the other, index pertaining to India?
Um, I don't really track it day to day, or I don't keep up with trends in India, but I do know that the Nifty has outperformed the S&P the last 5 years.
Right.
Yes, it maybe yes.
Yeah,
So in terms,
and I
I
think that's
just
for a good reason, and I think that can be explained.
right. Now, I just made this particular chart. I'd like to show and get your thoughts on this. So this is I made this in August, and this tracks the index and their current price, their industry,
Mhm.
and the price in Bitcoin terms and the market cap in Bitcoin terms. So if you sum it all, the 50 companies, the market cap is 37 million Bitcoin, which cannot be, it isn't possible on in any, because there's always 21 million and that's the
Mhm.
cap. So when we're talking about valuating companies in on the Bitcoin standard, do you have any thoughts on that? Because there's already a company doing this in US called Roxxon, where they are pricing all the stocks, ETFs, commodities, or they intend to, in Bitcoin terms. So do
Oh,
you have
okay.
any thoughts of this happening anytime soon, or do you see it happening in a few years? And do you have any predictions on this?
Okay, so can you talk a bit more on what this platform is aiming to do?
Yeah, this platform, had they track the stock price of these individual shares, like the Apple, Nvidia stock, Microsoft,
Okay,
etc.,
okay,
in Bitcoin terms. So if you look at it, if you click on Apple, okay, one sec.
So it's a
okay. Let's look at
300,000 sets,
Apple.
right? Price of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple share.
So the
Hmm.
stock of the price of the stock is 354,000 sats as of now.
Hmm.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
So you're
And it is down
measuring,
2%.
yeah, and you're measuring everything on in the Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin standard rather, and you're evaluating a company based on that. So that's their whole MO, about what Roxxon is, and they want to increase this. Like they want people to transact shares using Sats and Bitcoin, if that makes sense. Yeah,
So they want you to think of company valuations in Bitcoin
exactly.
terms
Yes,
and
Yes.
use that as a a metric to assess its valuations.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting.
So
So,
any
I mean,
thoughts on that? Yeah.
technically, if you go long enough, all of them should trend to zero
Right.
against Bitcoin, right? They should keep trending down, with the exception of like groundbreaking companies like Nvidia, which has happened to outperform Bitcoin, right? I think one of the only ones in the world. But that's only because the whole world recognizes AI as the next obvious
Right.
move in technology, right? I don't think you have any other companies in such a space to compete with something like AI. I think that's where all the money is flowing, and and I would expect all other companies to continue to trend to zero in Bitcoin terms,
Right.
other than possibly high growth AI companies,
Right.
Okay.
whether in India or in America.
Okay. So yeah, one question. What, like, we will take the example of MicroStrategy. So like, what if some company adopts Bitcoin standard? So will it be able to outperform Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy is doing?
I think it will, as long as the differential of shares per Bitcoin per shares keeps increasing faster than they can dilute their shares. I think that's the key point.
Okay. So I think it is possible
MicroStrategy,
in the initial beginning only.
yeah, MicroStrategy happens to be adding Bitcoin faster than they are diluting their shareholders. That's why the market is giving them a premium and it's outperforming Bitcoin. I think that's a key factor there. When that flips, even for MicroStrategy, I think it'll drop. But as long as they can keep increasing their Bitcoin per share, it should keep outperforming because they're able to leverage dollars to buy Bitcoin, right? And
Right,
that's
right,
the
right.
whole game. That's the whole end game for Sailor.
Yeah, and I think he was very vocal about it as well in his recent conversation, where he wishes to be MicroStrategy to be $1 trillion company, and at the same time, MicroStrategy can pivot to the Bitcoin bank of the entire world. So, and that's when you have your products being denominated in Bitcoin. So that's, I think, his main goal, and I think
Yeah.
we will
His
see.
his trillion number seems so low to me because Apple is already a few trillion now, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's with the assumption that the whole world uses Apple products.
Right.
Basically, that's where we're at now, and they're around 3 trillion. I think.
Yes, 3 trillion.
So aiming to be a trillion, if the world goes on Bitcoin, is so low, right? I think that's just the beginning. I think it's
Yeah,
just the beginning.
starting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you thought about like hyper Bitcoinization, like within 5, 10, 15, 20 years, like how much wealth Bitcoin will accrue compared to the global wealth? Like, any thoughts
I
about this?
I briefly thought about it, and I mainly keep it in the context of the USA. And I
Okay.
still believe the USA will probably be last on Earth to get into Bitcoin in any meaningful way. I think you'll have every other country on Earth take it more seriously than America will. So
Really, yeah, I have differing thoughts on that because all the the vocal improvements and all the ETFs being approved are from the US. And I that was my next question to you. What do you think about the current landscape of Bitcoin in US per se? Because you have congressmen and women talking about it. You have bills being passed in the Senate. You have different cities. There's Santa Monica, which has a Bitcoin center. They're having a festival in the next few days. We have ETFs. ETFs are the main drivers, is what I think, because after that, you have all of your retail who are exposed to these products. How do you see that playing out in the near future? And what happens to the custody aspect of it? These two things, if you could shed some light on. Yeah.
okay, yeah, in the US, what you typically see is most people don't self custody.
Hmm. Yeah.
Most people keep it on the exchanges, Coinbase, or now they'll just simply buy the ETF. And I
Right.
think that will continue. I don't think self custody is going to grow much, not much, unless you keep having multiple episodes of FTX.
Yeah.
I think multiple rounds of beatings and crashes are required for people to really take self custody serious.
Wasn't that enough? DX Celsius.
Actually, I don't think that was enough.
Hmm.
I don't think that was near
Hmm.
enough at all.
Right.
Right, 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 right.
But so I should ask you a question. How do you define adoption?
Yes.
That's important because
Hmm.
adoption can be different things. It can be like everyone using Bitcoin Lightning to buy things in their day to day, or it could mean everyone uses it as savings. What does adoption mean to you in that way?
So for me, ideally, in an ideal world, I'd like it to become a medium of exchange, and
Hmm.
you use it for different products and stuff. That is
And also
adoption.
unit of account, right?
Yeah, that's my definition of adoption. But
Oh,
I believe it's very far from where we are right now, because that's what it's transitioning to, the store of value aspect. And that's
mm,
where it's being, the whole comparison is being drawn to the gold, right? Like, Indians are obsessed with gold, and they have been, Indians for the longest period of time were a savings culture. And I think we got lost somewhere after the 95, I mean, the 90s or early 2000s, where the whole thing shifted heavily towards consumerism, and a lot of, the whole high time preference aspect of it. That is when we lost our sight on what was important, and we were not building for future. Is This is my personal take and opinion. You could have your thoughts on this as well. And that's where, when you see the comparison being drawn to gold, in current context, it is absolutely correct, where you have, it being used as a store of value. It's growing at a certain percentage per year, 40, 50, whatever percent, and that's fine, that's good. But what can you do beyond it? And that is going to be, it can take multiple forms and ways, where people who know the value of Bitcoin will custody it, and then they'll build solutions. Say what a sailor is doing is bang on, I'd say, because he understands the value and long-term potential. So he doesn't intend to sell. What he wants to do is leverage that, what he's holding, and give loan or whatever. You have various financial products. So this is just one aspect of it, and that will grow with time. So that is what my understanding is. Your thoughts on this, please? And
um, yeah. So I have a question.
yeah.
Do you see your friends and your age group of people talking about gold in India?
No, but the gold
No.
ETF, sure. And the gold, paper gold per se, yes. Because you have easy services like Phone Pay, Google Pay, where you can buy the gold,
Mhm.
like for 10
Hmm.
rupees, 100 rupees, etc. That that does excite a lot of people because of the
Hmm.
recent price appreciation.
Hmm.
They're like, nah, I will rather buy and hold gold. Gold is good, rather than risking it on any small cap, mid cap stocks. So
So
But
that,
most of my
do you see any culture shift around crypto and stocks among young people?
like
Mavi, like,
most of my friends are buying stocks only, and
Exactly.
feeling IPO.
That's what I
Yeah,
saw
like
as
they are.
well, and which is why the last five
Yeah.
years it's outperformed S&P
Yes.
because
Yes. So they
retail
are
in India,
all
I
in
believe,
stock.
are getting more and more and more into stocks
Mm,
because it's getting
mm,
easier.
mm.
so I
Everyone
think,
is filing IPO. Like it's totally like there is euphoria in stock market. Like in
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
my like 15 years or 12 years cousin is filing IPO every week.
I think
For
I saw
savings.
some bike companies doing it, right? And they have one shop or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Recently,
yeah.
I released
The one
They
in
got
Delhi, I
like
think, if I'm not wrong, two
yeah,
shutter
they
shop,
got
and
100
they have,
times more, right? They got
yeah.
100 times more
right,
money
right.
than they were raising. So
So yeah, I mean, I think people look at savings, they understand savings, and they want to grow their wealth, and that's why they're turning to the stock market,
Yeah.
mm,
even despite it being risky, and a lot
mm,
riskier than Bitcoin. So that's what, one, people understand the potential of Bitcoin. Then probably we see the whole moving of funds from this whole stock market, real estate, gold, to Bitcoin. But that's going to take few years in India specifically. That's what my take is.
Yeah, I mean, in India, the fundamentals are there. Everyone has that mindset of saving. Like it's already there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, we just
Yes,
need
yes, yes.
some way to shift that sentiment into
Hmm.
from gold to Bitcoin. It's like one step is required, basically.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's pretty much it from my end in terms of what I wanted to understand from you. Bhavik, आपके कुछ questions होंगे?
Yeah, yeah. I have one like one case study or like one. I want to put one thing on both of you, in front of both of you. So if you know, Bitcoin is around 1.5 trillion dollar, right? Asset. So like the whole world is around like they say including debt, including real estate, the whole world is 2,000 trillion dollar. So out of 2,000 trillion dollar, 1,000 trillion is debt, like bond market, 400 500 is real estate, 200 300 is stock market. So all in all it is 2,000 trillion dollar. So Bitcoin is 1 trillion, 1.5 trillion dollar. So what do you think, like and this 2,000 trillion dollar is increasing at anywhere between 10 to 15% every year. It is getting inflated because it is being
Right.
measured in dollar terms. So out of 2,000 trillion, Bitcoin is one and a half. So now it is
Yeah.
0.05, 0.01, let's say 1%, or sorry, 0.1%. So what do you think, like as we go further, um, how much Bitcoin will be able to like take that pie? And by the time it takes it, like this 2,000 trillion, or some consider is 1,000 trillion, some consider 2,000 trillion, so it will be around maybe to 10,000 trillion in 10 years or maybe
Mm.
more. So like
So
if
I think the first
hmm,
slice that will see some outflows should be the bond market globally. I think
hmm,
as America just keeps doing what it's doing, just keeps
hmm,
printing and expanding our debt,
hmm,
and
hmm,
the bond market keeps getting destroyed,
hmm, hmm,
I think slowly investors from all over the world, whoever owns US
hmm,
treasuries, will start will start to see other forms of savings. And it doesn't
hmm,
have to be Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will get
hmm,
some of it naturally. They
hmm,
might, I don't
hmm,
know, you see the BRICS people buying gold suddenly, right?
hmm, 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 hmm,
Whereas they used to hold treasuries.
hmm,
So
hmm,
some
hmm,
people will flow into gold, and gold
hmm,
is showing you that in its charts. I mean, it's
yeah,
having some real flows.
hmm, hmm,
So naturally, it'll eventually come to Bitcoin.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
And yeah, the bond market will start seeing some leakage.
hmm,
I think the first place, and then probably real estate.
hmm,
All the real estate markets around the world that aren't really growing as fast anymore. I think the
hmm.
Indian real estate markets are still pretty good. They're still doing a
And it is
great job.
all like inflation driven growth, right?
Yeah, it
In
is. It
India.
is.
Yeah.
And the tier one cities like Bangalore, Delhi,
Mm-hmm.
Chennai, they all see very high growth rates of growth year over year on real estate. I think there's a long way to go there before people start realizing, let's not do real estate, let's do Bitcoin. I think there's a long way to go there. But in the
Yes.
West, in advanced economies like Canada, for example, their whole economy is real estate, all of it. I think many investors there will start seeing Bitcoin ahead of real estate because it's
Mm-hmm.
so inflated, so hyperinflated that like last 10 years or so, I think it's done 5x or maybe 5x. Yeah, you possibly cannot 5x again from these levels the next 10 years. It's really not possible. So I think within the next 10 years, real estate will really see some outflows into Bitcoin because you just cannot 10x or even 5x in 10 years like we did in the past.
But can it get 10x with the like inflated dollars? Can't it be? Like
Nominally, maybe.
nominally, no. Okay, nominally yes, but real
Nominally,
no.
yes, because that will just it's just a number, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
But you have to keep in mind, nobody's salaries around the world with real estate. No one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not in
Hmm. Hmm.
America, not in Canada, and definitely not India.
Hmm.
Like people don't get raises fast enough to
Hmm.
keep up with rent increases or housing
Yeah.
increases, right?
Mhm.
So this should
Inflation.
continue. This should continue, but
Mm.
eventually you hit an inflection point where you simply don't have buyers for real
Mm.
estate.
Okay.
It has to stop eventually, right?
Mhm. Definitely.
That's why I say it can't possibly 10x again over the next
Mm.
30 years or 5x in 10 years. I don't think we see those numbers in real estate.
Mm.
I think we will see it in Bitcoin though,
Mm.
because to tie it back, we still haven't had gradually suddenly in Bitcoin. That still hasn't happened
Mm-hmm.
in terms of global
Yes.
slices of debt.
Yeah, it hasn't happened.
That
Yeah.
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Like like when we saw the like $1 million candle in a decade maybe, or in a 1.5 decade, that will be the suddenly part
Correct.
maybe.
That will be a good
Right.
indicator of that suddenly moment.
Yeah, like Bitcoin suddenly goes to like 3 million from 1 million,
Mhm.
But
maybe
you,
5 million.
just to add to that point, there,
Mm.
I mean, we are privileged enough to be sitting in India and US, and we're talking about this. But you have countries like Egypt and Lebanon where this is actually happening. You see God candles and 500
Right.
k, 1 million candles
Mm-hmm.
happening overnight. And there was one particular instance where Egyptian government, they reduced uh, you know the value of their currency, and then you
Mm.
see Bitcoin shoot up like it was a
Yeah,
straight line.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see that happening
overnight.
in countries like that. And that's not to say it won't happen in countries which are more advanced. And it's
Mm.
just a matter of time, like Sunny and Bhavik said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's only a matter of time before people realize what's happening.
Mm.
People in those countries, they simply realize it much earlier because they're at that stage in their economy and their local currency where
Mm.
it's forcing them to realize.
Mm.
Their governments are debasing those currencies so hard, so
Mm.
fast
Yeah.
that it's
Mm.
happening. Their suddenly moment is happening. In the rupee, we have a long way to go. In the dollar, we have a long way to go.
Mm.
Just because
Mm.
our economies are very advanced, right? They're huge.
Mm.
True. True.
In Egypt, in Zimbabwe, Venezuela, those economies are tiny. So any small move that the government makes a big difference in those currencies.
Mm. Right.
Right.
But to see those moves in India and America,
Mm.
it'll take some time for sure.
Mm. Mm. But when it happens, it will happen suddenly, right?
Yeah,
When it
because the
happens.
suddenly
Yeah.
will still gonna happen. You can't stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
dependent on the people.
Okay. I have
Uh,
one direct question.
Yeah.
Should I? Yeah.
yeah.
The direct question from the related, like the last thing we discussed. So I said total global wealth is $2,000 trillion, including bond market, right? Bitcoin is $1.5 trillion. So it is almost not even 1.1%. It is 0.05, 0.06%.
Mhm.
So when do you think Bitcoin will be able to hold, let's say, 10% of the total global wealth by the year? Like, what is your personal, like, if you think like 10%, not 100%, not 50%,
Mhm.
10% of the total wealth, whatever
So
the
that
global wealth is.
that's what
Mhm.
200 trillion, 10%.
uh, and like forget the trillion, right?
Okay,
Because
forget.
yeah, because this $2,000 trillion is increasing at the rate of 10, 12, 15%, and it will, I think it will accelerate because of
Yeah, it will accelerate.
the
This is not linear.
like,
This is not linear.
yeah, yeah, the collapsing economy of other tier 3 nations, and lastly dollars. So I think it
Okay.
will accelerate. So
So when
let's
will
it is
Bitcoin hit
hmm,
around
it
10%
is,
of
yeah,
global
it is
wealth?
less than 0.1% now.
Right, right.
Hmm.
I think I'd say 20 years, 20 years.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, I also keep the same target, maybe
About
20 years.
about 20 years.
Yeah.
This
But
sits.
there's so many variables and things,
Yes, yes, yes,
right?
yes,
But
yes. Mm.
and there's
Mm.
no good way to even chart it out or look at any
Yeah.
graph. You cannot do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but yeah, but 10% is huge. Like, see, within 20 years, this $2,000 trillion will be like, it is getting double at every 7 to 8 years. So in 20 years, it will be $6,000 trillion.
Right, right.
So 10% is $600 trillion. So Bitcoin will be 600 times more than now if it catches 10%. It
Yeah.
is just like, yeah, I'm just experimenting with numbers. Yeah.
20, I think 20 years is
20
probably
25 years.
my bet.
Yeah.
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 This
If
this I
Bitcoin
think
like
that
about is about to go success.
yeah, it's
Even hitting 1% is gonna make a
Mhm.
massive difference.
Huge. Yes.
Massive difference. Forget 10. Hitting
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
percent.
Yeah. 1 to
Because that's
10
what
will be faster than the like 0 to 1 maybe.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
The law of large numbers are still gonna hold
Yes,
true
yes,
as
yes.
we grow, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
but when we hit one, I think the seriousness of this thing as
Hmm.
a savings is going
Hmm.
to be is going to be
Hmm.
uh, much more recognized around the world.
Hmm. Yeah. So gold is 1% right now
So go
of the
okay, gold
total
has
wealth.
already achieved 1%.
Yeah, like it's 0.9%. Yeah.
okay. So, few things
Hmm.
before we conclude. Do
Hmm.
you see any more countries in the near future, say this year or next year, coming on board and adopting what El Salvador did in the recent past? Because Edward Snowden has predicted by the end of the year there is one country which will come through. But do you
I
see
see.
any more nation states, pooling in and
I
going all
think
in?
we see signs of activity from
Okay,
many countries who are positioning.
right.
But I also think that it would be wise for any such country to not say anything about it.
Mm.
Hmm.
I think I think someone has done it already, but
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
but they're just not being public.
Still,
I think it's already happened.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
When you look at mining metrics, you'll see some of
right.
these things, right?
Hmm.
And this is not out of America. Someone somewhere
Yeah.
out there is
Like maybe Bhutan, like Bhutan is already buying, like mining, so they must be like building their balance sheet in their reserves in Bitcoin. They may
exactly.
be Qatar, like Iran, Russia, maybe they may, but they won't announce. You're right.
I believe
They
it's
they
already
won't
happened,
announce.
but they won't
Yeah,
announce.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There's a game theory to not announcing, to have an
Yes,
advantage.
yes, yes, yes.
So
Absolutely.
speculating
Mm,
on which country I think is not that
mm,
interesting.
mm,
I think thinking about who's already done it and whose positioning is much more interesting.
Absolutely.
mm,
Uh, I mean, I'm sure we can talk and chat a lot more, but
mm,
because I want to let you go because it's pretty late over there. So I like, okay,
mm,
we've concluded.
Okay.
Any
mm,
last closing thoughts in terms of tips for those who are not aware of Bitcoin, who would want to learn about Bitcoin, and all the newbies who are watching? For
I think what I generally say to new people who are probably looking into Bitcoin is whenever you start FOMOing in and whenever you start hearing everybody trying to talking about it, about buying it, when price really starts moving up, we have not seen that yet, by the way. I think that
mm,
happens at 100K, by the way. When we
mm,
approach 100K is when we might have that
mm,
last cycle moment, 2021 moment again,
mm,
where
mm,
those
mm,
who don't put the time in will FOMO and they will chase.
mm,
And we're going to have a retracement
mm,
just because everyone is chasing this thing. People are going to take it down. The Wall Street is a player now, so they're going to whipsaw this. And my best advice to anybody beginning is to begin a dollar cost average plan.
mm.
That's the top advice I have.
Yes.
Don't time anything. Don't manually time your first entry either. You should just dollar cost average the same amount for at least 2 3 years and just put it on some sort of auto payment, automated, fully automated.
Mm,
I think that's the best you can do. Because let me
mm,
tell you something. In 2021, my dad started a DCA plan,
mm,
and he started on the day of the all-time high in 2021
mm,
at
mhm,
$69,000.
mhm,
I logged into his account in
mm,
Swan, and I
mm,
saw that first purchase, $69,000.
mhm,
But he kept it going,
mhm,
and as of I think last Friday, it's
mhm,
above 100%.
mm.
So you can start at the all-time high.
Even if the price is below 69K today. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Mm.
matter if you hang
Mm.
in 3-4 years, you will be
Right.
in the green.
Right.
That's the best advice I have.
DC
Even
is
if
the
you
best
start at
advice,
the
right?
all-time, even if you start at the
Yeah.
all-time high, you can't go wrong if
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
DCA.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Sunny, for accepting the invite again and
No problem.
answering the questions and giving us your perspective. I encourage people to follow you on Twitter. I will include them in the show notes below. And thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you guys. It was great
Thank you,
talking.
Sunny. Yeah. It was really nice to chat with you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for giving your
Yeah, yeah.
time. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. I'll see you around.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.